You're listening to 15 Minutes, where we feature community leaders sharing what the rest of us should know but likely don't.
Hi, listeners. I'm Bela Musitz, host for this episode of the 15 Minutes Share Your Voice podcast, where we talk with top-notch law firms and attorneys about what it takes to grow a successful law practice. This episode is brought to you by Gladiator Law Marketing, delivering tailor-made services to help your firm accomplish its objectives and maximize your growth potential. To have a successful marketing campaign and to make sure you're getting the best return on investment, your firm needs to have a better website and better content. Gladiator Law Marketing uses artificial intelligence, machine learning, and decades of experience to outperform the competition. To learn more, go to gladiatorlawmarketing.com, where you can schedule a free marketing consultation. Today's guest on the podcast is attorney Michael Eisenbaum. He is the managing partner of Gray Duffy, LLP, a litigation firm with offices in Woodland Hills and Redwood City, California. Recognized as a U.S. News best law firm, Gray Duffy provides a diverse range of legal services to businesses and individuals, as well as insurers and their policyholders. Michael specializes in the areas of premise liability, contract liability and enforcement, construction defect, product liability, professional liability, personal injury, and property damage litigation. He is a regularly called upon to speak and has written many articles on timely legal topics. Welcome to the podcast, Michael.
Good afternoon. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about how you got into the law field. What was your inspiration?
It's actually kind of a unusual and possibly funny story. I, through college, never even envisioned going to law school or becoming a lawyer. And one night at one of those, happy hour festivities that you have in college at some bar, a friend of mine, I actually wasn't part of his conversation. I overheard him talking about next steps because we were all seniors, and he was talking about going to law school. And I was actually applying to other schools for graduate school and things of that nature. And I was like, law school, that might be worth checking out. So I ended up applying to a few law schools, including Pepperdine University in California, in Malibu, California. Got accepted there and went and checked out the school. And of course, it's beautiful. It's in Malibu, overlooking the ocean. And I was actually with my father, and he went with me to look at the school, and he goes, "Is there any choice here?" And I go, "I think the choice is made." So I went to law school, enjoyed law school, was good at it, did well, and got a job through on-campus interviews at a fairly large downtown law firm, and took off from there.
Yeah. What were those early years like, right? So graduate from law school. This is your first year working for a big firm. Describe that a little bit for us.
I was a little bit intimidated at first, being a young lawyer, being very green, in a big law firm. And I was actually at that law firm for about 3 years, and didn't really like the, big law firm environment. Give you an example. The managing partner at the time kept referring to me as Mark. See me in the hallway. "Hi, Mark." Everybody didn't know everybody. And even though I corrected him first 2 or 3 times, he kept calling me Mark. And finally, I just stopped correcting him. So I looked for something a little bit more personalized into a law firm, and actually ended up here at Gray Duffy. Back then it was known as Gray, York and Duffy. And it was, a medium-sized law firm, in the area of 15 to 20 lawyers, which I kind of liked. And it was more of a a boutique environment, if you
Yeah.
will.
Yeah. So is Gray and Duffy, you said when you joined, it was about 15 lawyers. Is that 15 partners or 15 lawyers total?
That was about 15 lawyers total.
Got it.
We're still in that range. We fluctuate up and down. Actually, I mean, we're trying to grow. It's hard to find good lawyers. We've got plenty of work. The clients like us, love
Yeah.
us,
Yes.
and send us a lot of work. And I'm overworked. My partners are overworked. And it's really difficult to find right now for some reason. In years past, it wasn't hard to find lawyers.
Yeah.
Lateral positions, 5-10 year experience or somewhere in that range. And nowadays it's like really hard to find a good quality lawyer that really, loves the profession, wants to work hard, wants to do well, wants to become part of a firm and grow with the firm. It's hard to
Yeah.
find that right now. And I've talked to other partners at other similar sized firms and even larger firms, and they're having the same issues.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting. So you're managing partner there. So how do your responsibilities different from I'll use the word normal, it's probably not the right word to use, but sort of a person who's just the partner?
well, kind of following up on what I just described, because we're, right now understaffed in terms of lawyers, I literally have two full-time jobs. One is the managing partner, which is managing the business of the firm. And part of that includes, supervising the various other lawyers in the firm to make sure the quality of our legal services are up to par. Um, and also just running the business of the firm. I have to oversee everything, from making sure we've got enough, and I've got staff that handles it.
Sure.
And I have a weekly staff meeting to make sure everybody's doing what they need to do. So that is extremely time consuming and would be a full-time job in and of itself, while at the same time having a full-time job as a litigation attorney, handling cases, trying cases. I just got done with a trial a few months ago that took me out of the office for 3 weeks. And it took me about 6 weeks to catch up from doing that. So
Yeah.
that's the real difference, is you're running the business as opposed to just being a lawyer, and handling cases, mixing with the clients, developing business, and things of that nature.
Yeah. Yeah. So you may not be directly doing this, your staff is, but getting the offices cleaned, making sure the lights, the electricity bills paid, et cetera. You take care of all of those things.
I make sure they get taken care of. I
Yeah.
mean, one of the things, give an example, we recently moved our office. So with the assistance of my office manager, who really took the laboring oar and all the little minutia that's needed to move a law firm into a new office building. But in negotiating the lease, I made sure I required the building itself to provide nightly janitorial service, for example, so that the carpets are vacuumed every night. So when everybody comes in the morning, the office is clean and ready to go. As opposed to, for example, my son's bedroom at the house, which is never clean, even 5 minutes after it's been cleaned.
Yes.
So,
yes. So, hey, I'm curious. So, as a managing partner, you're doing lawyering and you're running the business. In law school, do they have a course or courses on how to be a managing partner, how to run a law firm?
not when I went to law school. And I mean, they teach you the legal issues of the law.
Yes.
And there's some that are, for example, there's a course I took in law school called trial practice that helps you understand, what's procedurally involved in a trial. And you also take civil procedure courses if you're a civil litigator like us. And I think it's actually required for everybody, as well as criminal procedure. So you get those backgrounds, but law school doesn't necessarily teach you how to be a lawyer. It gives you the foundational knowledge to understand the law, and then it's up to you to employ that in whatever practice you either join or possibly start on your own. Most lawyers join a firm because they don't know what the heck they're doing.
Yes.
When they're right out of law school, there is some training to be a lawyer that's both on the job and you kind of have a mentor. And, I've in years past signed up as on the mentoring program for my law school so that graduates can, meet, have somebody to talk to. So I've done that in years past for people to, give back a little.
Sure. I think that's important, and it's often overlooked. I think the value that a mentor can bring to a younger professional and, somebody to bounce ideas off of or just share experiences with.
Yeah, it's, I had a little bit of that. When I did summer law clerking with lawyers, they were a little bit of mentors. Didn't really have a mentor at the first big law firm. When I came here, I worked in a practice group under one of the main partners doing certain things and then moved to a different group. So you get a little bit of mentoring there, but as time evolved and our practice evolved here, ultimately leading to me becoming managing partner. My mentor was really the previous managing partner, Gary Gray, who taught me everything I know as far as running the business of a law firm.
Yeah. Now, as managing partner, do you get involved in sort of advertising the law firm and being responsible for generating incoming clients?
Yes, I do quite a bit of that. We have a PR firm that we use too that assists us with things when we write. For example, we write legal. I've written a number of articles, and the PR firm will find publications that are interested in those articles in the legal community or in the specific niche of the industry that our clients come from, such as construction. So I've written articles for construction publications. I've written articles for claims journals that are often read by insurance people, because some of our work comes from insurance companies and such. So it's always, and that gets your name out there. And we've actually had potential clients that become clients contact us saying, yeah, I read your article. Would you be interested in giving a presentation to our company?
Yeah.
And that's a foot in the door with a new client.
Yeah. I've always thought that sort of writing articles for professional journals and trade publications is sort of a great way to get your name out there, get the firm's name out there, because you have this instant stamp of credibility that's sort of established, as opposed to, getting a billboard on the side of the highway.
Yeah.
They're both important, but, I think a lot of people overlook the opportunity to write articles for these public trade publications in particular.
And that's true. And it's a time investment because, we know what we do and we know, how to do it. But sometimes it's good to be able to communicate issues that we find that we're dealing with, that'd be good to let the industry know, hey, there's this issue out there. Here's some suggestions on how to guard against these problems that we see typically come up. And then, people in the industry may hopefully read it. And they'll be like, wow, I had that same issue. Maybe I should call this guy.
Yeah.
And so it does work. But it is an investment in time.
Yeah. Yeah. I've known a couple people in the past who were very clever at being able to write one article and sort of repurpose it and use it in multiple different places, rewriting parts of it as opposed to having to generate a whole new article.
Yeah. And that's what's great about the law is there's always new appellate or Supreme Court cases that give a new wrinkle on particular legal issues. So if you've written an article in the past, you can update the article or you can repurpose the concepts that you've discussed in an article into a presentation for a particular client and just, develop a little PowerPoint slideshow to present to people, which now a lot of that is being done through through the internet, through Zoom, webcasts and things of that nature.
Yeah. So, what's sort of the ratio of your clients, kind of individuals versus corporations?
It might vary year to year. I would say there's a lot more of individuals. A lot of times individuals are just kind of one-off cases. And sometimes it's a company that'll come to us, whether it's a small construction company or small business, they have certain needs in litigation, or they're being sued, or need to sue for some reason.
Yeah.
So we have, a good mix. And then you have the institutional clients, which are primarily the insurance companies. And what's interesting about working with insurance companies and representing their insureds, their policyholders, is we've had a lot of success after we might get an assignment from an insurance company to defend ABC company, get to know them, get to know their business in the course of representing them. They like what we do, and then they have other legal needs, and then they start retaining us directly as their personal counsel on a variety of needs that businesses have that result in the need to call attorneys. So we try to help our clients basically make them better business people from a legal perspective, so they can avoid common pitfalls that could lead to litigation.
Yeah. Do you also do legal work for other law firms?
At times we have, like many law firms, I should say. Sometimes I know a lot of lawyers, obviously.
Sure.
I've gotten to know a lot of people know us. So when they might have a client that has a particular need that doesn't fit their expertise, but they'll be like, hey, why don't you call Duffy, Mike Eisenbaum over there? I think he can help you because that's what he does. And of course, we do the same thing. I mean, if we don't do, for example, wills and trusts, probate matters.
Yes.
So when a client of ours says, hey, I've got a situation, can you guys write a will for me, or, set us up a trust? We can't. I don't do that. Never got into that. Wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. So I know other lawyers that I would refer that to, that I know and trust. And same thing with like criminal matters. I'm not a criminal defense attorney, although I have represented some fairly close friends, and when they get in trouble on small criminal matters, and just, taking care of those situations for them. But I'm not and I tell them I'm not a criminal defense attorney, but I think I can help you out.
Yeah. Yeah. So the legal space seems like a pretty crowded space, right? I'm constantly seeing various different advertising, whether it be on the internet or on TV, radio, et cetera. What sort of makes your firm kind of stand out?
It's more, we're actually selective of the clients we handle. That's why we don't put our name on billboards and bus benches and the TV ads that you see a lot of, particularly in Southern California, and other states now. That has grown as far as the advertising goes, particularly in the personal injury arena. We do a lot of personal injury cases, primarily on the defense, but for friends and family of the firm, we'll take on the plaintiff side from time to time to make sure that, those clients are treated right. If it's something we can't handle, we'll refer it to, a PI firm that I know and trust, which is not one of the ones you would ever see on a billboard, because they just, those types of things, they end up with volume, and there's not much selectivity involved. So, when they're dealing with hundreds of new clients a month because they advertise on TV all the time and their phone, just rings off the hook, and they have people processing and screening claims, that's not what we do. What makes us different is we actually take the time to get to know our clients, get to know their needs. With respect to their business, we really get to know what they do in their business. Give you a quick example. through an insurance company, I got assigned a case to defend a unique contractor that manufactured a specialized coating system that was used in water treatment plants and sewers and all this stuff. And I knew nothing about that. I knew how to litigate a case. I knew how to litigate a product case. And this was essentially a product defect type of case. But I didn't know anything about this particular product or anything. And I really took my own time, not charged to the insurance company, to get to know and understand the ins and outs of the client's business. And that impressed him so much that after I resolved that case for him and the insurance company, he has hired us on a number of occasions with some of the intricacies of his business on some of the other things we do to look at his contracts. If he was entering into a new contract with an agency or, a facility to provide coating products, and they're all trade secrets are involved and things of that nature that I learned. And he was impressed by the fact that I actually took the time to get to know his business and understand it, which I think is essential when you're representing somebody.
Yeah.
There's a lot of lawyers don't do that. They stay superficial.
Yeah. There's a really nice theme here that's been going on in our conversation. And that is, if you do a really good job for your customers or your clients, chances are they're going to keep using you and come back to you and actually broaden the portfolio that they give you.
Right.
And that's really the best way to get clients, because they already know you already know them. And the cost of acquiring a new client is so much higher than holding on to an existing client.
Very true. The existing clients, clients do come and go over the years, including, major clients. So you are always, as, running the business of law, trying to plant seeds that are going to grow for the next big client that's going to give you work for years to come to keep, not just yourself, but other lawyers busy as well. And it's also important that we try to give our lawyers here diversity in terms of the types of cases that they handle. So they get kind of a well-rounded experience. So each lawyer might be handling a handful of construction type cases, some personal injury cases, some business litigation cases. And even within the personal injury realm, for example, you have different types. You have, you might have auto accidents, you might have product liability, you might have premises liability. So there's different types of cases that you'll deal with across any particular legal category as well. So that you have all those subcategories that you become familiar with as well. And that keeps things interesting for the lawyers, avoids the common burnout of just doing the same grind every day. And it enables you to, come across some interesting legal issues. And then once you employ certain procedures within the issues that you recognize, it can oftentimes become a good basis for an article and sharing it with both the legal community and the industry that becomes clients or is a client.
Yeah, very nice, very nice. Was there sort of like a turning point in your sort of legal career where, first of all, the light went off and said, "Boy, am I glad I went to law school? Am I really glad? Am I doing this?"
It's just kind of, I've been practicing now for 32 years. I'm in my 33rd year. Graduated law school in 1990, passed the bar right away, went to work at that firm I described.
Yeah.
And one of the things, I became, I became intrigued after my first jury trial, which actually was at that very first firm. They actually let, a young lawyer, year and a half or 2 years out of law school, try a case. It was a small case. It was, if the worst happens, it wasn't going to be bad.
Yes.
And I was simply defending a charter bus company on an accident, an unusual accident where the where the bus driver left the luggage doors. This is back in the big charter buses where people would take long trips, and they have the luggage compartments under the bus. And I guess they had opened the doors and the driver left the door unattended, and didn't latch it properly. And so when the plaintiff came along to put his suitcase in there, the door fell down, whacked him on the head, and knocked him out for a minute. And that, believe it or not, went to trial in front of a jury in Orange County, California, my first trial. And I enjoyed that. And it came out well. I ended up admitting liability. Yes, it was our fault. We shouldn't have done that. But I employed some strategies that I thought would work, and they did. And the jury actually ended up giving me a defense verdict, even though the guy was actually hurt a little bit.
Yeah.
They didn't like the fact that, that the lawyer referred him to doctors and they ran up these huge medical bills. And in talking to the jury afterwards, and I even suggested, hey, give him $2,000, $3,000, $5,000. It's our fault. That's really what it's worth. And they figured that since they ran up like 12,000 in medical bills and there were medical liens, that if the jury awarded him money, it would all go to these shisty doctors anyway. So the jury decided to give him nothing. And I was like, wow. And I came back to the firm after, being in trial for a week in Orange County, and big smile on my face. And, the partner that had assigned, it was one of his clients. He goes, boy, I'd have betted the house and the kids against that one. So they were impressed. And that actually got me in very good with that particular client as well, because I did a good job for them.
Yeah.
And it was an insurance company that insured the charter buses. So once I did that trial, I was like, I really like presenting things to a jury and educating a jury on what our case is about, and also advocating for a client, even in, what might be an otherwise negative situation.
Yeah.
And that's a small example. And as I tried a few cases, they got bigger and bigger, and I've tried different cases. I've tried cases involving the landslides, one in Santa Barbara 10, 12 years ago, maybe longer. And so, I always viewed myself as I can try any case, because I will get to know what the issues are and invest the time and effort necessary to coherently present the case to a jury. And I think, I can get juries to listen to me. It's not to say, I haven't lost a case at trial, because juries can be strange. They can agree with everything you say and then decide it for the other side. And that's happened. So, particularly in cases where, there's no way I'm going to win this, which is actually the worst case to try is the one you're expected to win. Because if you win, well, that's what we expected.
Right. Big deal.
Right. But if you lose, it's like, you're supposed to win that. That was an easy case.
Right.
What's wrong with you?
Right.
So that's I always like to try the more difficult case where it's like, hey, I don't know if we can win this. I'm going to give it a shot. But, if we can't settle it, we're prepared to go to trial.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you look into your crystal ball and look out for the next 5 years, how do you think sort of the legal profession is going to evolve?
Well, one thing, and it's one thing I don't necessarily like, and I think it was a result of, the COVID situation with the lockdowns.
Yeah.
Nowadays, a lot of people will take depositions remotely over a Zoom connection like this one. And you depose a witness, but you're not in the same room. The same thing with mediation. A lot of cases go to mediation these days. Mediators who are good at settling cases have very lucrative practices. I've thought of becoming a mediator, and I've acted as a mediator for the courts as well, in years past. Don't have time for that now, but I respect a lot of mediators, and a lot of mediators are handling the mediations over Zoom. Again, I think the in-person aspect is being lost in the profession. people are too comfortable sitting at their desk or at their home when they're either taking a deposition or as a witness. You're being deposed, and all you got to do is sign on to your computer, answer some questions, shut off the computer, and go about the day. Whereas I prefer, if I'm particularly with an adverse witness, the adverse parties,
Yeah.
if I'm defending a personal injury case, it's the injured party. Well, I need to see that person face to face. I need to size them up personally. And I need to see the little nuances while they're testifying to know if they're credible or not, or am I being, fed a load of crap, which
Right.
oftentimes you are.
Right.
And it's hard to pick up on those nonverbal cues over a video screen as opposed to in person.
Sure.
And same thing with mediation. A lot of mediations are being conducted remotely now. Although they're starting to get back a little bit to normal in person. But I think when you're in person trying to settle a case and you're at a mediator's office, you and your client are there, you're committed, you took the time out of your entire day to drive there, be there, trying to settle it, look the other side in the eye personally, talk to the mediator personally. I think it's more productive. That's not to say I haven't settled cases over remote mediation sessions. But in the particularly, the one-on-one cases where it's just us and them, as opposed to multi-party cases, I think it's better to all be sitting around, and they do separate you into different rooms. So you don't reach over the table and strangle each other when the mediator's not looking. But by and large, I think the practice of law is something that's done in person. They even experimented with jury trials doing those remotely, and that was a disaster.
Yeah.
So, so those I don't envision going remote, jury trials, where you're talking to 12 people on a video screen and a judge in the middle.
Right.
You'd rather be there standing in front of everybody, banging on the table and,
Sure.
being a little animated so that they can see, and this is real. It's not a television show.
Right. Right. Yeah. Good point. Good point. So if there's a young budding attorney listening to this, you have some words of advice for them?
Yeah. I mean, having been a mentor, it's really, think what you want to do. And, start, what you may not know. I didn't know what I wanted to do. It's like, hey, I got a job. That's all I cared about when I graduated law school. I've got school loans to pay back, right? So you kind of end up where you're at initially, but if you don't like where you're at initially, or the practice that you're engaged in currently or at first doesn't seem right, one, give it a fair chance, because it may grow on you, as it did for me. I mean, in terms of litigation, and a lot of lawyers never get to experience a jury trial.
Yeah.
Which for me kind of was it. I mean, that's what I love to do. And put yourself, and I ended up in a situation where now I can do that, even though most cases settle and don't go to trial, but they do periodically. And you got to be capable to do that. But I think, if after giving it a fair shake, if the type of practice you're in, you want to change, you'd rather be a criminal defense attorney, don't hesitate to make a change. Explore what's right for you as a young attorney. And then once you feel like, I think this is it, this seems, I like this, stick with it and become good at it and become the best at it. And that's when you'll really be successful.
Yeah. Yeah. So if people want to find out more about you or more about Gray Duffy, where's the best place for them to go?
The best place, I mean, we have a website at www.grayduffylaw.com. So that's got all the information about our lawyers, the types of practice areas we engage in. It's also a link to all the articles we've written. So, and when we publish articles, it might have at the end of the article or at the beginning of the article, it might have my picture and my phone number. And people are welcome to call me. I mean, usually if they need to talk to an actual lawyer, they can call our office at 818-907-4000. It's been our number for over 30 years. We've been in the Valley for almost 35 years now. And we enjoy providing legal services in this community and all over California. I mean, I've got cases from San Diego to Sacramento.
Okay.
When clients call and say, hey, I have a case in, Sacramento or Humboldt County, even I've had a couple up there. We do have the Northern California office for something that needs to be done live and in person. But a lot of times I don't have to fly up there to go to court if it's just a routine court appearance. That can be done remotely. It doesn't always necessarily require you to be standing in front of the judge, although I would prefer to stand in front of the judge.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Michael, is there something that I have not asked you that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Not really. I think the points we covered in general are what we're about. And again, I think what distinguishes us, and one thing I didn't mention, in addition to basically getting to know who our clients are and what they do to, give them the best, most effective representation possible, we also pride ourselves on communicating with the clients. So, the number one complaint with the state bar from clients is, I never hear from my attorney. And when I call him, he doesn't call me back.
Yeah.
So we have a regimented philosophy that we employ in practice of, even if the client's not calling you, you should be calling them or writing to them frequently, not overkill, but frequently enough to where the clients know that, they're in good hands, their case is being handled, it's moving along, so they don't have to pick up the phone and go, what's happening with my case?
Yeah. Yeah. Good point.
Yeah. That's what distinguishes us, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that communication is a good tip for all sorts of professionals who interact with, customers or clients, for sure.
Yeah. I think I've done a seminar for a client on that very topic too.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
communication is key, especially the written communication, because especially in a lot of companies' businesses, it's like, well, I told them that they couldn't do that and they went and did it anyway. I'm like, great. Where's the email to your customer telling them that? Because that's your defense.
Right.
And if it wasn't in writing, the conversation gets denied by the other side as ever happening. And now you got a he said, she said. And but if you got a writing to back it up, you can't deny it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Hey, Michael, thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. I really enjoyed our conversation. You were great.
I appreciate being here. Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to 15 Minutes. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.